There's a quote from Walt Disney that feels almost mischievous in its simplicity. It's kind of fun to do the impossible. Walt didn't say that as a motivational poster line. He said it because he lived it. He believed that imagination wasn't just a gift. It was a responsibility. And innovation wasn't a department. It was the very core of everything he touched. Today on Walt's Wisdom, we're exploring Walt's philosophy of innovation, how he imagined boldly, risked bravely, and built a legacy that still challenges us to dream bigger. And we're going to look honestly at the contrast between the daring risks Walt and Roy took and the safer, more predictable strategies that dominate the entertainment world today. Disney has a new leader, Josh D'Amaro. If Josh wants the next great leap, the next blockbuster film, the next amazing park, and a lasting legacy, I don't believe he can get there by playing it safe. Walt believed in moving forward. He once said, "We'd keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things, because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths." Curiosity was his compass. It led him from a little studio on Hyperion Avenue to the first full-length animated feature, to the first theme park of its kind, and to technologies that didn't exist until he needed them to tell a story. And that's the key. Walt didn't innovate for innovation's sake. He innovated because the story demanded it. When he wanted Snow White to feel like a living world, he invested in the multiplane camera. When he wanted audiences to feel the ocean's depth in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he pushed for underwater cinematography techniques that had never been attempted at that scale. When he wanted families to step inside the worlds he imagined, he built Disneyland, a place so new that bankers, executives, and even some of his own team thought he'd lost his mind. But Walt didn't see risk the way most people do. To him, risk was the price of progress. And Walt's brother Roy, steady, loyal, brilliant Roy, understood that better than anyone. Roy once said it was his job to help Walt get the money to do what he wants to do, and he meant it. Together, they mortgaged their future more than once. They bet the company on Snow White. They bet it again on Disneyland. They bet it on live-action films like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which required massive sets, experimental effects, and a level of ambition that made Hollywood nervous. And yet, time after time, the risks paid off. Not because they were safe, but because they were bold. Compare that to today. Modern Disney, and most major businesses, operate in a world of data, analytics, test screenings, and shareholder expectations. Innovation still happens, but it's often incremental, carefully measured, and designed to minimize risk. Retelling old stories has become a reliable strategy. Live-action remakes, sequels, and reboots dominate release schedules. They're familiar, they're predictable, they're safe. But safe doesn't create blockbusters. Safe doesn't create cultural earthquakes. Safe doesn't build the next generation of dreamers. We've seen the consequences. Projects like the recent live-action Snow White and others struggled not because the story lacked potential, but because the approach lacked innovation. It was a retread, a new coat of paint on an old structure. And audiences can feel when a film is made to protect a brand rather than push a boundary. The same pattern has repeated across several remakes and reimaginings. Moderate results, modest impact. quickly forgotten. Walt would never have settled for moderate. He didn't retell stories. He reinvented them. His Snow White wasn't a retelling. It was a revolution. It wasn't just the first animated feature. It was a genuine work of art. Walt's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea wasn't a remake. It was a technological and artistic leap that set a new standard for live-action adventure. Even when he adapted existing material, like Verne's masterpiece, he transformed it so completely that it became something new, something only Walt and his team could have imagined. I believe that's the spirit we're missing today. It's not recklessness. Walt wasn't reckless. His risks were thoughtful, intentional, and rooted in a clear vision. But they were risks, real risks. Risks that could fail, risks that sometimes did fail. Fantasia is just one example of such failure. Walt had misfires. He had projects that didn't land, but he never let failure scare him back into safety. He saw failure as tuition, the cost of learning. With each failure, Walt and his team learned. Sadly, Walt's last grand vision, Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, was not fully realized as a real city due to Walt's passing. Brother Roy carried on valiantly, but without Walt's spark, the actual city was never built. It's possible the U.S. would be a different place today had the original Epcot been constructed. That was vision, and that was courage. The truth is, the entertainment world needs a little more of that old-style innovation. Not a full return. The world is different now, and not every risk is wise. But a partial return, a willingness to dream bigger than the data, a willingness to build something new instead of polishing something old, a willingness to chase the impossible even when the numbers say it's safer to stand pat. Because the rewards of bold innovation are still enormous. When Disney took risks in the post-Walt world, real risks, the results were extraordinary. The Little Mermaid, Frozen, and movies from the Disney Renaissance show that. The first Avatar, though it wasn't a Disney project, is another example of real innovation and its possible rewards. Audiences still crave wonder. They still crave originality. They still crave the feeling Walt gave them, the sense that they're seeing something they've never seen before. Walt said, "The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing." And maybe that's the message for Josh today. Begin doing. Begin imagining. Begin risking again. Not recklessly, but bravely. Create new worlds. Create new stories. Imagination is boundless. The next great leap in storytelling won't come from rehashing the past. It will come from someone, somewhere, deciding to tell an impossible story and having fun doing it. Like Walt's Pollyanna, I'm hoping to find the best in people. Go get 'em, Josh. I believe that's Walt's wisdom, and it's as true now as it ever was. Thanks for watching. Please consider giving us a thumbs up, adding a comment or suggestion, and most importantly, hitting the subscribe button so you can be made aware of our latest content. 1,000 thank yous.